Hey guys, like I said before, I recently got a job, and that's why I haven't been uploading as much recently. However, once I got the job, something very important happened. On my second day of work, I had to be rushed to the hospital. How did that happen, you might ask? Well, it was my second day, and I work in the food industry, and I was washing dishes, and my manager was like, okay, I'm gonna duck out for like 15 minutes. When I come back, CJ, you go on your break. And I was like, got it. She leaves, and someone who's prepping tells me she needs to go up front, and she wants me to cut open this bag of chicken for her while she's gone for like a few minutes. I pull and pull and pull, and I can't open the bag because it's not meant to be torn open. The person prepping next to me tells me to use a knife. I'm looking around like, okay, knife. My coworker tells me there's one right in front of me. And I look down and there's like this meat cleaver, like one of those butcher knives where like the blade is like a rectangle. And I hold the bag up, I hold the blade up against the bag to cut it, and I slice open my hand, and I don't even cut the bag open. It didn't actually hurt, which is the interesting thing, but I did scream like out of like natural instinct. And then I looked at my hand and I was like, oh my god, there was a huge cut in my hand and a lot of blood is pouring out. My coworker sees it, freaks out. She's like, oh my god, you, and then pushes me over to the first aid kit and the sink and stuff. I'm rinsing out my hand in the sink. My hand won't stop bleeding. The cut is so deep. My coworker takes out this disinfectant and this band-aid, and she's like, this isn't gonna work. You need to go to the emergency room. You need stitches. And I was like, what? And I feel my heart beat because I get really nervous and scared. The harder my heart beats, I see more blood is just pooling out of my hand. She's like, you need to apply pressure. And I'm over here like, who's pressure? They call for my manager to come back because it's an emergency. She comes back. My hand is tied up in like a band-aid thing. She takes me to the hospital, in which the people who are involved with work-related injuries with the company said that my paperwork would be sent to them, and it never was. And I went to urgent care, which for some reason meant that I was in a waiting room for like 2 hours, which was debatably the most embarrassing moment of my life because it was a work-related injury and I didn't have to pay any of it out of pocket, and that was good. But because it was a work-related injury, I had to tell multiple hospital workers the story of what happened, when all it came down to was I accidentally cut my hand open because I'm an idiot. I finally see some doctors, they clean it out, and they give me a few options. Option number 1, get stitches. Option number 2, put a band-aid over it, which the blood would eventually soak off and it would do nothing. Option 3, use medical glue, but since it was on the part of my hand that stretches around when you move your fingers, it would eventually wear out and reopen. And option 4 was to bleed out. And I was definitely in a position where I was like, I think I'll take the bleed out. Just kidding. In reality, I was just wondering what the point in giving me any of those options were, since only one of them worked. So because there's more nerve endings in your hand and the top of your head than anywhere else, they couldn't numb me the way they normally do, and I don't really know the specifics, but long story short, they stick me with this needle and they inject it, and it feels so painful. It feels like hot cement is just pouring into my hand, and I start screaming like I'm a Dragon Ball Z character having birth. And it gets to the end, they pull it out, and I'm just like, oh man, and that was only on one side of the cut, and so they were like, okay, one more. They stick me again, and I'm like, oh my god. However, once I finally was numbed, it was amazing to see them stick a needle through my flesh multiple times, and I just didn't feel a thing. The scar is really small, and you can't necessarily see it that much. It's actually a lot smaller than the original cut, because it's on the part of my hand where when you oppose your thumb, it stretches around, the stitches would reopen, so they had to put like this bandage cast, and I couldn't move the entirety of my hand, and I couldn't get my hand wet, because if the skin on my hand wrinkled up, it would rip the stitches out. So I was stuck with my hand like this for 7 days straight, and I had to go to work, and I also couldn't get this hand wet at all, which meant I did have to shower like this. The morning after the accident, I woke up and I stayed in bed to rest a little bit. I turned on Spotify, and I swear to God, Stitches by Shawn Mendes started playing. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that story about how I got stitches for the first time in my life. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next video, peace out, Girl Scout.